Tuesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Jason Kelsey talking about what he believes the potential of Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders is at the NFL level. This is from the New Heights podcast.
There's more questions of what's the maximum potential, where is this player at currently. There's a ton of opportunity and potential that the kid has. And there's been tons of players that have been drafted in the later rounds who teams have questions about that end up panning out. And a lot of that comes down to the intangibles. A lot of that comes down to, does he just have this it factor? Everybody, and that's what everybody's kind of waiting to see. Like, at the end of the day, he's been successful everywhere he's been. He's had throwing accuracy. Like, none of that stuff teams can avoid accepting. But they will find all these other little things to say, like, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. There's guys like Tim Tebow had a lot of stuff in college too, and he didn't pan out in the NFL. I'm like, they're looking to find these little things that cause them to have concern about why you might not pan out the next level. Yeah. And all I'm saying is, if this kid is the dog and the motivated individual, he's got a lot of attributes that lead themselves to being great at the next level.
Yeah.
And he's in a situation now that, he's going to get a chance to compete.
And he will, without question. Another one of the Browns rookies, Quinnshon Judkins, talked about what he does well and how he fits into Kevin Stefanski's run game, given where he played in college.
Just who I am as a player has helped as well, just because of my versatility, man. And playing in Coach Kiffin's offense is very fast-paced, super fast tempo, really just using the back in a lot of different ways, but everything goes so fast where you can't be super, you can't make it too hard because it has to be fast tempo. But then going to Coach Kelly's offense where it's more so pro style, and he's just super, the versatility of the back is insane. It was a lot of time I'll be in the slot, one-on-one with the backers. You can line me up anywhere on the field. We could change our footwork up on our wide zone, our inside zones. We can do under. It just was so many things you could do in that offense that Coach Kelly had as far as versatility that I really loved. And I feel like that's what I bring to this offense as well, the pro style. And that's why I fit into this scheme so good, because of the versatility that I am and what I bring as a player. And I think that's why I'll have a lot of success at it.
So the Browns rookie minicamp will begin Friday, go through the weekend. Browns rookies were assigned their numbers. They'll have these numbers through the end of training camp at least. Mason Graham gets 94, Carson Schwesinger 49, Judkins, who we just showed you, gets 10, 88 for Fannin, 5 for Gabriel. Dylan Sampson will wear 22, and Shedeur Sanders wearing number 12, same number that his mentor, Tom Brady, wore. Game 2 for the Cavs tonight. Kenny Atkinson was named NBA's Coach of the Year last night. He was asked the reason for the Cavs' success so far this season. This is from the NBA on TNT.
I think, the easy answer is Evan Mobley. Empowering him and really not just myself, but our leaders, Donovan and Darius and Jared Allen, empowering Evan. They knew he was the key, right? They knew he was the key to us making the next step. And I think after that, Kenny, it's our bench, right? Celebrating our depth. We have so many good players. I mean, Kobe Altman put this roster together, our front office. So much talent. I was gifted, really into a great situation. But that was really the key. That Evan's development, and then the trust in our bench and our depth.
And again, Kenny Atkinson definitely deserved to be Coach of the Year. J.B. Bickerstaff finished second. Cavs down 1-0. Former NBA guard Jay Williams, ESPN, talking about the Cavs game tonight, trailing 1-0.
I am extremely concerned about the Cavs. Number one, Garland in that situation. And number two, defensively, you talk about one of the best teams defensively in the league. I mean, they just look uninterested in this game. I mean, for 19 threes to be made on 54% shooting, with all the narratives that have been looming around Cleveland throughout the entire year, I better see a different Cleveland team in game 2. And I know they had a good layoff, and sometimes that layoff can disrupt your rhythm and how you're prepared for that game. But still, that's no excuses. I saw lazy defense. Donovan Mitchell, I think he is a superstar in this league. 33 points on 30 shots. You had 2 players that took 50 of their 98 shots, Greeny. The second player was Ty Jerome. So, look, not showing up offensively, but defensively not being locked in. That was one of the most disappointing efforts that I've seen in the game one.
Can't argue with it. The one thing, Indiana plays at a different speed, and it's hard to simulate that pace. But again, the Cavs got to be better. ESPN's national NBA analyst Brian Windhorst with how important the game is tonight.
Wendy, is this must win?
If you go back and look, the last 40 games of the regular season, there wasn't much difference between the Pacers and the Cavs. And I know the Cavs, had that stretch at the end where they took some losses, which evened that out. But, this was a good team. Even if the Cavs were fully healthy, they were going to have their hands full with this. When you get down 0-2 in a series, regardless of the home court situation, you're in some trouble. So, yeah, I think, they've got to win tonight, and I think you will see them play like that.
Yeah, without question. And the other thing is they're going to be less than 100%. So Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter all missed the Cavs shoot-around earlier today. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are out for tonight's game. Means they were likely getting treatment and at the least will be limited. So less than 100% for Garland, Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. Tip-off at 7 o'clock. If they can play, they will, but all of them will definitely be less than 100%. Cavs going to need to tap into some of that depth. Down 1-0, tip-off 7 o'clock tonight at Rocket Arena. MLB Network's John Morosi asked just how good the Guardians' Jose Ramirez is in his opinion.
He will be properly rated on my Hall of Fame ballot one day, on which his name will receive an easy check in the box. He's a Hall of Famer for me, period. And that was the case long before that 250th stolen base, but it really does pull into focus all that he has done over his major league career. Fewer than 10 players in the history of the game, Lauren, have been 250 and 250 with a single franchise, and he is now one of them. I also think it's important to consider the context of recent third basemen in the Hall of Fame. And yes, we love talking about MVP awards, but I go with top 5 finishes because you can't always control when you're up against an Aaron Judge or a Shohei Ohtani in an MVP race. But if you're consistently getting in the top 5, that says a lot about you as a player. And Jose Ramirez has been in the top 5 times. 5 times. That is more than the last 2 third basemen who have been elected to the Hall of Fame, Scott Rowland and Adrian Beltre, combined. Okay, so Jose is 5. The 2 of them were 3 combined. It's hard to do to get to the top 5. And Jose has done it 5 times. For me, that's further evidence of why he's going to the Hall of Fame. He'll be an easy check mark when I get that ballot many, many years from now.
John Morosi, you are officially hired to be the hype man for Jose Ramirez's Hall of Fame push, because all those things are very true and great points. Guardians, a double-header today after the game was rained out. Luis Ortiz facing the Nationals' Jake Irvin in Game 1. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer at cleveland.com, up first on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We begin by talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Former NFL quarterback Matt Hasselbeck on trying to figure out the Browns' crowded quarterback situations. This from FS1's The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
There's not enough reps for 3 guys, really, never mind 5. So I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody get traded at some point. That's just the nature of how it goes. But I remember being my first year, I was the 4th string quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And like I said, there's nothing to do. Essentially, they used me as a practice squad tight end at practice. So somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to go. And that's an interesting dynamic in that room. Obviously, people will be talking about that one and watching it very closely.
With that, let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Mary Kay, every quarterback situation is different. I looked it up. They had Brett Favre and Doug Peterson, so they had a 1 and a 2 firmly established. But is this truly an open quarterback competition? And you know, how difficult is it going to be with 4 of them that need reps?
Well, first of all, the Browns almost always go into training camp with 4 quarterbacks. We've seen that time and time again in this regime. So this is nothing unusual in that regard. It's when you get to the regular season that you certainly cannot find enough reps for even 3 quarterbacks. Your starter obviously takes all the first team reps, and then your backup takes the scout team reps. And you're right, the practice squad guy gets almost nothing and is throwing off to the side here and there. So they're not going to be able to sustain 4 quarterbacks. And it's not really 5 because Deshaun Watson is not going to be out there practicing. He's rehabbing still from that Achilles and will be doing so for quite some time. So it's really going to be 4. And then, no, it's not going to be an even level playing field when they're in training camp. There's no way that they could possibly do that and get a guy ready to start the season. So a lot of this is going to take place in OTAs and mandatory minicamp and in the classroom. And that's where they're going to sort of sort through this thing and figure out how they head into training camp and what the pecking order is going to be at that point. And the people at the back end of the roster, those guys are not going to get anywhere near as many reps as the 1 and the 2.
So I know a couple of your Hey Mary Kays. Was the decision to draft Shedeur Sanders made by Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, or did Jimmy Haslam force them to do that? There's this narrative that it was Jimmy Haslam. We've dispelled it several different ways. I'm curious as to what you have heard.
Well, of course, it's Andrew Berry's decision. He calls the shots. He has final say over the roster. And I know people love to do this with Jimmy Haslam. They love to create and perpetuate the narrative that he is calling the shots, but he is not calling the shots. Now, if we want to rewind the clock and go back to the Johnny Manziel years when Ray Farmer was a very inexperienced GM, I think at that point, Jimmy Haslam did step in and do something about that. But that's not this regime. Andrew Berry is an experienced GM. Kevin Stefanski is an experienced coach. They're going into their 6th season, and that's not what's going on here. And no matter what I try to say, it seems like people don't want to listen to this. They just want to believe that this was Jimmy Haslam's idea to go out and draft Shedeur Sanders. But I think what happened is that in addition to the fact that his value was good in the 5th round, too good to pass up for the Browns, I really also believe that Andrew Berry did want to help save Shedeur Sanders from going undrafted, because I don't believe that he felt that that was fair. I think he thought it was ridiculous. And I think that he did say, you know, we are going to step in and end this and change this because it's not right what everyone else in the league is doing. So I think that had something to do with it.
The other thing, I know you wrote an article about this one, why Shedeur Sanders was the no-brainer in the 5th round, and why the Browns had Dillon Gabriel. They obviously had Dillon Gabriel ranked higher. They took him in the 3rd round.
Right. Well, as far as the no-brainer is concerned, a lot of teams talked about, or at least for background, it has gotten out there that teams did not want to deal with the noise, the extraneous stuff that goes along with bringing Shedeur Sanders into your town and onto your football team. But that was not it for the Browns. The Browns did not care about that at all. If they feel if they can't handle a Deion Sanders or a Shiloh Sanders or a Deion Jr. and whatever else comes with Shedeur, then they shouldn't be in the NFL. Because if you can't deal with the extraneous noise of a football player, then you're not worth your salt in this league. So that had nothing to do with how they felt about anything. And in terms of his personality, that was not an issue for them either. They actually like his personality. They almost see him as somewhat of an introvert, and in some ways he kind of is. They don't see him as a Dion type of guy. So those things were not huge. That's not what it was about. For them, it was a football decision. And I think that they kind of looked at him as a little bit of a throwback to the older style kind of offense. And they are moving backwards to the Kevin Stefanski old way of doing things. But Shedeur, he doesn't have, prototypical height for that. He doesn't necessarily have the biggest arm for that. And the thing I think that concerned them the most were the negative plays that he took. He took a lot of negative plays, 94 sacks in his last 2 seasons at Colorado. And I think it was that type of thing more than anything.
So here's another article you wrote. Can Shedeur Sanders beat out the other 3 quarterbacks? Who do you view as the front runner?
Well, first, let me back up a little tiny bit and talk about why they had Dillon Gabriel ranked ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And the reason they did is because from everything that I can gather, he is a quicker decision maker. He's a better decision maker, and he doesn't take those negative plays. If you saw with Shedeur, he was always kind of drifting backwards, not getting rid of the ball quickly enough. Dillon doesn't do that. He doesn't take those negative plays. He doesn't take those unnecessary sacks. And he's played a lot of football. He has started an FBS high 63 games in his career. And he's thrown 155 touchdown passes, which matches Case Keenum for the FBS lead. So he's got a lot of football under his belt. He's a fast processor and a quick thinker. And I think that's why he went at number 94 to them and Shedeur at 144. Now, can Shedeur beat out these other quarterbacks? He's going to be coming from behind. So much so that right now in this race, I would probably put him 4th behind Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Joe Flacco, and that's how I would have them ranked. So he's got a tall order ahead of him, and he's going to have to do whatever it takes to climb up there and try to get on top.
The quote that I keep hearing, I've heard it a number of times, Kevin Stefanski may have even said in his press conference, they kept looking on tape for where the size was a factor for Dillon Gabriel and just couldn't see it. And there's plenty of tape on him, but he's listed at 5'11", and they couldn't see where that size became a detriment.
Well, it hasn't been to this point, and hopefully for him and for them, that will continue to be the case. Because as you know, in the NFL, everyone's bigger, everyone's faster, everyone's stronger. So yeah, to this point, it hasn't been a detriment to him, and he has to make sure that that's still the case. Or is Cam Hayward going to get his hands up there and swat some of those passes down? Is TJ going to do that? So these are the things that you have to figure out going forward. But to this point, he's like some of the other shorter quarterbacks in the NFL that they haven't let it be a detriment to them, like a Russell Wilson, like a Kyler Murray. And now we can throw Baker Mayfield into that mix because he's not letting it hurt him either.
Yeah, Drew Brees would be another one. Rookie minicamp starts Friday. What goes into that? What are you paying attention to?
Well, first and foremost, of course, I want to see those 2 quarterbacks stacked up against each other and just even watching them throw the ball. So that's one of the things that I want to see. I've already seen both of them in person. I've met both of them. I've talked to both of them. So it's really not so much the eyeball test for me because, again, I have stood face to face, one-on-one with Dillon Gabriel and with Shedeur Sanders. And it did strike me when I met Dillon that he is very short quarterback. It's hard to even believe that he is 5'11", if he really is 5'11", but he plays bigger than that. So hopefully for everybody, it won't be a factor, but I really do. I am really looking forward to seeing how they look paired next to each other or standing next to each other in terms of throwing the ball. Because a lot of times they'll do drills where they will have both of them throwing at the exact same time, the exact same route. So I want to see some of that. I want to see how they interact with their teammates. I want to see how they interact with the coaches and those kinds of things.
And there's a lot of classroom that goes into it. That's probably going to be some of the most important work that happens.
Yes, absolutely. And those guys are going to they're going to have a lot thrown at them this weekend, and they're going to have to show how they can pick it up and how they can take it on the grass and how they can make corrections and take coaching. All of those things are going to be huge, especially when you're in the midst of a quarterback competition.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. We'll talk receiver, running back, and more. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Diontae Johnson is the wide receiver the Browns signed, and his contract details, veteran minimum, 1 year, $1.17 million, does not include any guaranteed money, zero risk deal for Cleveland, while Johnson will work to reestablish his value, just 28 years old. Mary Kay, again, this is a guy that, has had some success with a couple of teams, but it did not go well last year for him. A high risk or a high reward, low risk move for Andrew Berry and the Browns.
Yeah, it really is. These guys kind of threw him a lifeline, and they're giving him a chance to get back into the NFL and see what he can do here in terms of revitalizing his career, or actually saving his career is what he's going to need to do. Because the Browns gave him the veteran minimum of $1.17 million. That's a far cry from what he could have been making if he actually had the kind of year last year that he could have and should have had. So he needs to rebuild himself, and this is kind of a last chance. If he doesn't do it here, his fifth team since March of 2024, just a little over a year ago, then there's a good chance somebody else is not going to give him a chance, or nobody else is going to give him a chance. So he's got to get out here. He's got to put his head down. He's got to keep his mouth shut, and he's got to do whatever he possibly can to get back into the good graces of a team and the NFL.
This would be a perfect, it's an opportunity. The Browns are in need of a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver that has some production in his past.
He certainly does. He has a Pro Bowl. He's got a 1,000-yard season under his belt. He's got 28 touchdown catches, which is more than anybody on this football team in his career. And so if he can demonstrate that he can score the football, that's what they really need. They averaged 15.2 points per game last year. They were tied for third fewest NFL touchdown passes with 19. To put that in perspective, the Bengals finished first with 43, and then the Ravens and the Bucks were tied for second with 41. The Browns way, way down at the bottom of the barrel with 19. So if he can come in here and show that he can catch some touchdown passes and put points on the board, then you're going to the head of the class fairly quickly, and he has the capability of doing it. He just has to keep his head on straight.
So this is from one of your Hey Mary Kays. Where exactly does Andrew Berry find a number 2 wide receiver who can stretch the field after they didn't take one in the draft?
Well, Cedric Tillman really is going to be their number 2 receiver heading into this season, and then it's up to Diontae Johnson to prove that he can be someone who can get on the field, because they are going to be playing more 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, or 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, and not anywhere near as much 3 wides as they've done in the past. And so in order for Diontae to get on the field, he's going to have to demonstrate that at certain key points, it should be like him and Jerry Jeudy on the field. Or if Jerry needs a break, then it should be him and Cedric on the field, because it's going to be a whole lot more 2 wides than 3 wides. And he can't be griping about this. He just can't do that. But if he's not going to cut it, or if they want to give a look to another couple of guys, then they're going to have to scour other teams' rosters for other trade possibilities and also kind of see who shakes free, maybe even in the final cuts. So I wouldn't say that it is a finished product just yet.
Another one. What about the offensive line? Where do the Browns find offensive line depth, seeing they didn't take one in the draft?
Well, once again, they can look around for trade possibilities and for guys to shake free in maybe June 1st cuts or other cuts. But remember, they did sign 2 offensive linemen in free agency. So I think they feel pretty good about what they have going in. And then, of course, they're hoping that DeJuan Jones comes back healthy from his broken leg.
Yeah, and at guard, you've got Zach Sinter. I know he didn't have a great rookie season coming off. He was coming off broken leg. You also have Luke Whippler, who they took with a late-round draft pick. And guys that you take in the 6th, 7th round usually take a year or two to get where you think they can go.
Right. I mean, they do have some depth. People have asked me about Jed Wills. Right now, I'm not feeling that. I'm not seeing the whole Jed Wills return situation here. I still think that maybe Jed is working through getting super healthy, and I don't even know if he's 100% ready to go yet. Maybe he is, but we really haven't seen him or heard from him very much. So I wouldn't say that he's necessarily slated to come back anytime soon, but you can never say never with some of these guys.
Running back is a position the Browns drafted 2 of. The first one was Quinnshon Judkins from Ohio State. He talked about being drafted by the Browns and playing close to Columbus, where he played 1 season for the Buckeyes, national championship season.
What better place to be than be like here in Cleveland? I mean, especially being a Buckeye. So many fans from Columbus are Cleveland fans, and, getting to meet so many different people throughout my time in Columbus that are Cleveland fans and just great people in general, and enjoy my time at Ohio State as well, and just bringing that intensity and who I am as a player and as a person here to Cleveland, just who I am as a Buckeye, man. And that will live in me forever because of the things that I experienced in my time there and what it meant to me, the culture, the brotherhood, all of those things, and bringing those tools from that program here to Cleveland, not that far down the road, maybe 2 hours away, but still feeling like I'm at home.
Mary Kay, I think, and I know we'll get in a little bit to Nick Chubb, and I know Browns fans are upset that it looks like Nick Chubb will not be back. They're going to like the 2 guys they got. Let them play a couple of games, and then let's see how much you like them.
Yeah, I think they're really, really going to like these 2 running backs. And if you watch Quinnshon Judkins play, if you watch him work out, I think he will remind you in some ways a little bit of Nick Chubb, even just in the weight room when he's there squatting 600 pounds and just the way he is a workout warrior. So he brings some of that Nick Chubb power, that just bruising running ability, that relentless style. And I think fans are really, really going to like him. And then you get the changeup, the home run hitter in Dylan Sampson, who can not only take it to the house, but also catch some passes out of the backfield. So I think those guys will provide a tremendous 1-2 punch. And again, as you mentioned, I know fans are very upset about Nick Chubb. Everyone loves Nick, but I do think that fans are really going to fall in love with these 2 backs. And
let's before I let you go, I know you answered this in a Hey Mary Kay. Why do you think the Browns won't sign Nick Chubb after Jerome Ford agreed to a pay cut?
Well, the key here is the Browns do not want Nick Chubb to be the number 4 running back. That is not what anybody would want for Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb isn't going to want that. You don't bring a guy like Nick Chubb onto your roster and then expect him not to play or carry the ball or do anything. And that's the situation here for him, that he would be number 4 right now. Now, in the event that they move Jerome Ford or trade Jerome Ford for some reason, then that would open up the door for Nick Chubb to come back. But right now, with Jerome taking this pay cut down to $1.75 million, which is about 50% of what he was supposed to make, that means he probably is going to be sticking around at that bargain basement price, and that doesn't really leave the door open for Nick at this moment.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the respect that Andrew Berry and the front office have for Nick Chubb. They wouldn't ask him to come here as a 4th-string running back. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Mary Kay.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, always great Browns coverage. We're going to take a quick time out. Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus straight ahead. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi talking about the crowded quarterback room the Browns have.
Anything's possible. Yeah, they could just put them on the shelf in training camp, and if the other three guys, do very, very well, they can justify that move by saying, well, Joe's up there in age, and he didn't. It's a numbers thing. I could see a scenario in which any of the four get vanquished out of here somehow.
Okay.
I mean, but I can't tell you how it's going to happen, Riz. I don't know how it's going to work out. This is a unique situation in all my years covering the Browns to have four guys who probably all think they are seriously going to win the job.
Let's welcome in Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, co-host of the NFL Stock Exchange. Trevor, four quarterbacks, and they legitimately could all start. Does that tell you the where the Browns quarterback position is more than anything, maybe?
Yeah, no, it does. And I agree. I don't know exactly how this is going to shake out. I assume that Flacco is going to sort of be that, okay, he's QB1 on the depth chart right now, but whoever's going to be QB2, I'm not sure. I guess I would say that probably they're going to give it to the veterans. If they have to come up with the depth chart immediately, I'd say that it's Flacco's probably at the top, Kenny Pickett's right behind him, and then maybe draft order just has it play out to where, like, all right, Dylan Gabriel is the 3 and Shedeur Sanders is the 4. But I do agree that any one of these four quarterbacks could potentially end up starting the most games for this team. The issue is more answering the question, who's going to start at the beginning? Because there's not enough training camp reps for all of these guys to get an equal opportunity. And especially if you sort of go into training camp saying, hey, we need to get one of these guys ready. We know it's an open competition, but one of these guys has to be ready for us by the time week 1 rolls around. That's what makes me think that Joe Flacco is going to sort of be treated as the incumbent, I would guess, even though he's not. They're going to give him the first crack at those first team reps. But then I think it could change throw to throw, day to day, on how these guys are playing, who ends up running with the second team, who ends up maybe getting some moonlight first team reps and all of that as training camp goes on. So it is kind of crazy how open of a competition this could be.
Yeah, without question, one of the surprises of the draft, Dylan Gabriel going in the 3rd round to the Browns. Nathan Zagura, who's a Browns radio analyst, this was on Infinity Sports Network, why he heard the Browns liked Gabriel.
I'm someone that's pro Dylan Gabriel. What do you think, or what's your understanding of why the Browns loved him so much, where you were saying after Cam Ward, he was their second quarterback on their board?
Yeah, he was the target. He wins the way that Kevin Stefanski, at least in my understanding of him, wants a quarterback to win. Great decision maker, accurate from the pocket, can throw on the move in both directions. He's very tough. They love his pocket movement. And one of the things that Kevin Stefanski told me was, we kept watching the tape. We kept being like, where does the height show up? Because that's the knock on him, right? If Dylan Gabriel's 6'3", he probably is the number 2 pick in this draft, to be perfectly honest with you, everything else being the same. He started more games than anybody in college football history, 63. In 3 different programs, he's had seasons where he's thrown for 30 touchdowns with 6 or fewer interceptions. He's thrown more touchdowns than anybody in the history of the FBS. He's played a lot of football. He's very mature. And while a lot of people talk about the pre-draft process of Shedeur Sanders, you can ask a lot of people around the league, and I've heard this from quarterback coaches on other teams as well. He had the best pre-draft process of anybody. Just mature, gets it, so good on the whiteboard, completely understands the concepts, understands the playbook, understands what he is being asked to do in the offense. And so they saw a guy that they thought could be a very efficient ball distributor and operator of their operation and of their offense, and think that what he excels at is what this system requires a quarterback to excel at.
how did you have Dillon Gabriel ranked? The more I hear about him, I'm like, okay, I understand why they took him.
Yeah, so when I watched Gabriel, look, I can totally understand the strengths of what he is bringing to the table. There was one point during the season where I had him as my QB3. I had him as like a top 75 type of player, somebody that you probably take somewhere around the range where the Cleveland Browns ended up taking him. Now, he was lower on my final rankings just because when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, going back to sort of what Nathan was saying, like, okay, well, where does the lack of height show up? In my opinion, it does, and it really does more of an overall arm talent than necessarily maybe height. I think that if he's 6'3", obviously he's a bigger human being. He has more muscle on him. He has a better and more ideal NFL arm. Now, when the areas where he struggles, in my opinion, is sort of what I saw when I watched him in person at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. It was the red zone drills, and it was when defenses made him flush to his right. Because remember, he's a left-handed quarterback, so flushing to his right, he struggled in both of those areas just because if he didn't have that clean platform to throw off of, really get the most out of his lower body all the way through his throwing motion, you really started to see the velocity dip on his passes. And when you are bigger, when you are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", the NFL doesn't hold those as thresholds for quarterbacks just because they like tall guys, right? I mean, like, it's not a dating pool necessarily. They're doing that because you have more muscle on your body, and when you have that, it makes it more ideal for you to attempt passes maybe when you can't. When you're pressured in the NFL, you might not have your feet exactly where you want to. They might not always be right underneath you. You might not be able to throw the ball exactly the way that you're used to. Sometimes you got to sidearm it. Sometimes you got to get rid of it quick. And when you have more muscle, you could still put on the velocity that you need to complete those passes. For Dillon Gabriel, it's just not as much of a margin for error. It's a very thin margin for error, in my opinion. And so I can totally understand why any NFL team, the Browns included, like Dillon Gabriel, because between the 20s, I mean, he had some of the cleanest quarterback work of any quarterback in this class. Even going back to last year, he would have been in that conversation with some of those top guys. He understands the game very, very well, and I think his resume reflects that. It's just a matter of, do you believe that he is physically gifted enough to be a difference maker and somebody that could win week to week in this league?
So you also did something that every team's favorite pick. This was for PFF. For the Browns, you had Dylan Sampson. So the round 4 pick, 126. What did you like about Sampson?
I love the fact that they picked him after they picked Quinnshon Judkins to sort of give themselves a 1-2 punch moving forward. I know that Jerome Ford took a pay cut, so he'll probably still be on the team. Obviously, it's sort of up in the air what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. It sounds like, listening to you and Mary Kay, that it doesn't seem like Nick Chubb is going to be back. So you need a legit rushing attack moving forward for 2025 and beyond. I think that Judkins can be the perfect early down back for you, and then I think Sampson can be a nice receiver for you, a nice change of pace back. And the thing is, I think that both of those guys, if you look at both of their college careers, they have both been the guy out of a backfield. I know that Judkins split time a little bit more when he was at Ohio State, but go back to his Ole Miss tape, freshman and sophomore, I mean, they were giving him the ball every single opportunity they could. Sampson was the same thing this past season. So now you get two guys who have plenty of experience on first, second, and third down situations, but they win a little bit differently. Quinnshon Judkins wins with a little bit more power. Sampson wins a little bit more with the quickness and long speed. And so now you just have two guys who are versatile, and whenever you want to put them out on the field, it just depends on when those moments are most advantageous, how they attack certain defenses every single week. And that's why I really like this pick, because I would have liked the Judkins pick anyways independently, because I think he's a really good player. But the fact that you now have a legit 1-2 combo here with these two guys and different skill sets that are going to translate well to the NFL level, that's why I really like them continuing to hit the gas pedal on making this running game a lot better than what it was last year.
Do you think is it getting close to where it was? Obviously, the line has to be there, but when you had Nick Chubb and you used Kareem Hunt, I mean, I don't think they're quite there, but could these guys be Hunt and Chubb of a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, that they can absolutely be a duo that you lean on. Now, Nick Chubb's special, right? And Kareem Hunt, when he was in Cleveland, was a really great number 2 back as well. So that was a really good option, especially when Chubb was at his best and when he was healthy. But you hit it there with sort of the caveat at the beginning of the question. The line's got to be better. And it's going to take a little bit of time for these rookie running backs and these young running backs to sort of acclimate themselves to the NFL game anyways. That gives you a little bit of extra time to where 2 years from now, you hope that the offensive line's in a lot better place. They're sitting here looking at their offensive line, and I was very shocked that they did not address offensive line earlier or with more priority and urgency in this upcoming draft, because you look at a lot of guys there, and sure, they're franchise legends who have been around for a while, but they're getting older. I mean, we're looking at guys who are hitting unrestricted free agency, who might be retiring soon, and so that's the part that I'm the most worried about their run game. I think they've now got the talent in the backfield over the next 4 years with these rookie contracts.
Trevor Sikkema and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will continue talking Browns, talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders, maybe some free agent wide receivers. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, co-host of the NFL Stock Exchange. Isaiah Stanback, Good Morning Football. Is he buying Shedeur Sanders as QB1 for the Browns?
Buying it. I'm buying it all the way. I don't care where his draft position was. Listen, we're not going to get into all the depths and the layers of the Shedeur Sanders fall off in the draft. But the reality is this dude is built for it, and he's proven it, right? We can say that about people all day long. From the time that he was at, where was he at? Jackson State, right? He started at Jackson State, built that program up from absolutely nothing, right, to where they're respectable. Him and his dad leave, and I know that the tie and affiliation with his dad is always going to be there until he's not, right? But now he goes out to Colorado, and he proves it again. This is the only guy in the draft who has shown you that for 2 programs that he went to, that he was able to build them up from nothing to something. When you're in the position of the Cleveland Browns, you need somebody to do what? Build you up from nothing to something. So I think that he has been through it. He is the only one that's battle-tested in terms of the media. He's the only one that's had that burden that's been placed on him because of the last name that he has. And he has not only talked about it, you not only have projected it, but he has shown it from the time that he was a youth all the way to the time that he's now in the league. I don't care how crowded that room is. Unless they just give it to Flacco, he is going to win that job.
Yeah, Trevor, I don't know whether I agree with that. He's got a lot of ground to make up. If you look at it just this way. Joe Flacco was out there. They traded for Kenny Pickett. Shedeur Sanders was there. They drafted Dillon Gabriel. That tells me he's kind of fourth in the pecking order starting. And they're not, like you said, there's not going to be a lot of reps.
I agree. I think that the depth chart as it stands today is going to be Flacco at 1, Kenny Pickett at 2. Like Dillon Gabriel has to be 3, and Shedeur Sanders has to be 4. And the reason why I say 3 and 4 like that is because, like you said, they picked Gabriel first. And not only did they pick Gabriel first, they had an opportunity to take Shedeur Sanders even earlier, and they took Dylan Sampson instead. So I understand that, hey, the team afterwards is going to say, like, oh, we absolutely loved him. We love that he's on the team. We're so excited that he sort of fell where he did. We were glad that we could go up and we could get him. And that's all good and great, but you had many opportunities to draft Shedeur Sanders, not at number 2 overall, and you didn't do it. And in fact, you picked a quarterback in front of him, 50 spots in front of him. So look, I still think that Shedeur Sanders could start the most games for the Browns in 2025. But start week 1, I agree with you. I think that's too big of a mountain to climb at this point. I just don't think there's going to be enough time for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's got to get in and show what they're looking for, specific things from Shedeur Sanders. And it's going to take time for him to show them what they want to see. Another area that the Browns need some help in, wide receiver, Chris Sims on free agent wide receiver, Amari Cooper.
Another guy where you go, well, big paydays, done. 2, definitely a big warning sign or an asterisk next to his name when a team trades for a player in the middle of the season because they think this guy's going to be the piece that gets them over the hump. And then we get to hump time, okay? It's hump time, and they go, well, we're not even playing him. He's not even out there. That's going to make everybody in the league go, what the hell happened? Wait, they traded a mid-round pick for the guy to get them to the Super Bowl, and they got in the playoffs and threw the ball to everybody else on the team except that guy. So that's where I just wonder the status of his health and, of course, the money. When the rubber meets the road there, what's he expect and what's he going to get is going to be a big part of this conversation with Amari Cooper.
And relative to the Browns, I'm not sure how it ended. You're starting to hear that he might be going back to Dallas. Are there free agent wide receivers out there that you still think could help, that you think would fit with the Browns?
Yeah, there's not a ton. I mean, like Cooper, obviously, depending. I mean, he could help this team in a little bit of a reunion there. But Keenan Allen is out there as well, but he's sort of the same story as Amari Cooper, right? If you'd be interested in one of those guys, Keenan Allen is somebody who the Bears ended up trading for, and they were hoping that, wow, okay, like we're bringing in this veteran, this proven guy, a great route runner, somebody who knows what he's doing. And maybe that is what Cleveland needs. So perhaps they could be interested, but just know that you're not trading for Keenan Allen, the former All-Pro and Pro Bowler, or you're signing, not trading, but you'd be signing somebody basically just he's there for veteran presence. Like Nelson Aguilar is out there as well, I believe. And so you would basically be saying, hey, we just want a more veteran presence there with the guys that we have. I think that they're really hoping that Cedric Tillman takes that next step. Certainly Jerry Jeudy, they're hoping is their wide receiver 1 in the best way this upcoming year. But somebody to be that wide receiver 3, maybe a veteran presence is the better option than, say, like a Jamari Thrash or somebody else who is currently on the roster. But there's not a lot of impact veterans that are available right now, right? A lot of the guys that would be from that position get signed during free agency and they're already gobbled up. So the guys that are left, there's a reason why they're left, but it's just sort of a matter of, hey, when we get to training camp, do we have enough guys who know what's going on? Or do we need somebody who's got a little bit more of a veteran savviness to them?
So the Browns went defense with their first 2 picks. They trade back, they get Mason Graham, and then they take Carson Schwesinger with the first pick in the second round. Did the Schwesinger pick surprise you, and what are your thoughts on him? That was a guy that really went on Browns fans' radar. Obviously, it was on the Browns' radar, but the fans kind of were like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, he's interesting, right? He comes from being a former walk-on, finally earned a starting gig this past season, and man, the good moments of his tape are tough to match. I mean, the way that this guy can put his foot in the ground and go, and some of the plays in which he anticipated where the ball was going, it's like he was reading the play better than the offense was. It's like his helmet was connected to the other team's offensive coordinator's helmet. Like, that's how well he was recognizing plays. But on the flip side, just from, I think, a lack of starts and a lack of experience, and he's a little bit lighter of a linebacker, he got pushed around a little bit, played on the ground a lot, and you want a guy to be a little bit more stout in run defense than he was. But, as a will linebacker, as a coverage linebacker, as a guy who you just say, like, hey, just go run and chase, cover some ground, give us some good range, that player is certainly in there and could stand out at the NFL level. Now, is that worth number 33 overall? I think that's where some draft analysts, myself included, were saying like, whoa, okay, I think that's early. Now, I had heard some whispers that Carson Schwesinger may be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick type of a player, but I thought that was the very top of his range of where he was going to go. But very clearly, the Browns wanted more speed at that second level. They wanted more speed at the linebacker level there with those guys. And so it's, for as much as you kind of don't want that 33rd pick there at the very top of the second round, as much as you don't want that to be a sort of wait and see, hey, we've got a little bit of ways to go with this player, it kind of is with Schwesinger, who I know a lot of teams were excited about. A lot of teams had this guy on their board pretty high, but this was still the very top of the range, in my opinion, of where he would have been taken.
How much better is the Browns' defense with Graham and Schwesinger than it was before they added him?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Graham. I really am. Elite run defense grades over the last 2 seasons. And even though he wasn't a prolific pass rusher from the middle, 13.8% pass rush win percentage, still had a really strong pass rush grade against true pass sets when he was asked to pin his ears back. The thing about Graham, and I know there wasn't a lot of production from him specifically this past year, everybody knew that defense was nasty, especially on the interior with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. And you watch a lot of these Big Ten offenses, and with their passing game, the time to throw against Michigan specifically was very low. They were not giving any of those defensive linemen the time to get into the backfield, get those tackles for loss, pressures, and sacks. And so I think that some people might look at Mason Graham and can't remember if he had 4.5 sacks this past season. And you look at that and you think, all right, well, that's a little underwhelming. The pressure numbers and the pass rush win percentage numbers are a lot more impressive from Graham. And so I think he's going to be ox against the run, can really hold up against double teams pretty well. And again, we saw that with really good run defense grades for him. And I just think that his presence will be enough to help alleviate some of what Myles Garrett goes up against, man. He's just been, I looked this up this morning, actually, just how much it feels like he has been just a one-man army, it felt like, on that defensive line, really for the better part of 2018. Now, not the entirety of those 6-7 seasons, but a lot of it was him just doing that work on his own. And I think Mason Graham really helps out up front, takes some pressure off of Myles Garrett, and vice versa as well. I think you'll be able to see Graham pin his ears back and get after the quarterback.
Trevor Sikkema, is always great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Trevor.
Thanks anytime.
Trevor Sikkema, make sure you check him out, Pro Football Focus. He is also the co-host of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We're in this episode, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, getting ready for Game 2 against the Pacers. Stay with us.
Hey, Olo, are there any lunch specials near me?
You want to learn about Ohio Lottery's Pick 3?
No.
Okay, Pick 3 is a daily draw game.
Cancel.
Where players pick 3 individual numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers can be played straight, where they must be drawn in an exact order, or boxed, where they can be drawn in any order. It's quick to play.
I just want lunch.
Players can win hundreds, and wagers start at 50 cents. The next drawing is coming up. Want directions to the nearest Ohio Lottery retailer?
Yes. One that serves food.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers getting ready for Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Pacers, down 1-0. And as we found out yesterday, Evan Mobley, questionable. DeAndre Hunter, questionable. Darius Garland, questionable. Kenny Atkinson talked about the Cavs' offensive struggles in Game 1.
Average. I thought they did a good job. We only had 7 turnovers. They just did a good job with their physicality. Their defensive intensity was excellent. It's crazy. I kind of think it was more our offense that hurt us as well. You gave up, whatever, but sometimes your offense affects your defense. So again, I didn't feel like we moved it, sticking. We tried to keep Ty out there to get another ball handler just to relieve the pressure. But our offense wasn't great tonight.
Let's welcome in Sam Amico from Full Court Cleveland, as well as hoopswire.com. Sam, was it a matter of the Cavs being sped up or just not shooting well?
I think it was probably a combination of both of those things. Obviously, with 9 of 38 on threes, Donovan Mitchell called himself out. He was 1 of 11 on threes. And when you're not, 3-pointers aren't everything, but when you're not making them and you're getting decent looks and still not knocking them down, against a high-octane offense like the Pacers, you're really in trouble, as we saw. So that enabled the Pacers to, we saw in Game 1 Evan Mobley, who's questionable in Game 2, as far as we know. We saw, he got 13 shot attempts. Ty Jerome took 20, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that's not who the Cavs are, and there just wasn't that opportunity once you're missing 3-point shots to find ways to score. And as we heard Kenny Atkinson just say, that probably did impact the defense a little bit. When you go down the floor, we saw, throughout the course of this game, it was very close in the second half. Cavs would go down with an opportunity and miss a shot. Pretty good look a lot of times. And that just compounds everything because Indiana goes down and hits a 30-footer. And it's just difficult when you're not making open shots. And, if there was any questions, we saw some questions after the Cavs beat the Heat by 37-55, how valuable Darius Garland is. I think we all saw that in Game 1 against the Pacers.
Yeah, the other thing, they were getting in the paint. They had 70-some points in the paint. At some point in time, if they're giving you that, take it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. The Cavs are going to probably focus on that a little bit more in game 2 when we're talking about finding different ways to score. They may go, old school and work inside out. And they did that for a game against Miami. We saw game 3 against the Heat in Miami. Jared Allen started that first half just assaulting the rim with like 6 dunks. It's a little bit tougher against the Pacers. They kind of pack it in, as Kenny Atkins had said. They're very physical down low. So, they just have to find an answer. Look, if Indiana misses 2 more threes and the Cavs hit 2 more, which is about the going rate for both of them, then we might be having a different conversation. But, when you're not making your threes and you're not hitting perimeter shots, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to kind of work that inside out offense as the Cavs may be hoping to do. Like I said, 70 points in the paint. That's not really who the Cavs are, though. So Indiana took them out of their offense, and they've got to find a way. They've got to knock down those open shots.
So you also wrote an article for Hoopswire about Game 1 loss. Quote, this is nothing to freak out about. Take us through that article and kind of how you arrived at that with this.
Yeah, it's par for the course with these Cavs. They finished 64-18, and then you tack on the 4 wins in Miami going into Game 1. They were 68-18, and even with a Game 1 loss to Indiana, 68-19. So this is a team that's won a lot of games, right? I mean, the vast majority of their games they've won. They don't make a habit of freaking out after losses. They know that, like I just said, a couple shots here or there, both teams stay a little more true to form. It's a different series. Well, now the pressure's on. This is the first time that they've had to feel real pressure, right? Because you're down 1-0, you lost home court advantage. Indiana has been you go back to January 1st, the team with the 3rd best record in the entire NBA. So, I mean, after a rocky start, Indiana's been on fire. And, this is where the Cavs are feeling the heat a little bit. But Donovan Mitchell, that's who said that. This is nothing to freak out about. We've had to overcome obstacles before. They had that 4-game losing streak during the season where nothing was clicking. And I think that that's kind of the MO of this team, is being incredibly resilient, coming back when people are counting them out. And trust me, after a 1-0 deficit, people are counting them out. In reality, you could correct things. Game 2, it's 1-1. All you got to do is get 1 in Indiana. You don't got to get both. You just got to get 1 there. And then all of a sudden the series shifts. So I think that speaks to their resiliency, their belief. The locker room, while pretty quiet, Sunday night, was the guys were in fairly high spirits. Ty Jerome came out and said it. Something I put in the article. He said it's going to be a fun series, and we expected it to be that. So, and Donovan Mitchell said we didn't expect the sweep. It would have been nice to do that, but we didn't expect that coming into this series. So I don't think that there's no panic level among the players or coaching staff from everything I could gather.
The concern now is, can Garland play with the toe? Hunter has a dislocated thumb, and that they were just kind of beating on him, being the Pacers. And then you also have Mobley with an ankle. Do you get a sense at all if those guys will be able to go in Game 2?
I'm not sure about Garland. Hunter's dislocated finger is on his shooting hand. Evan Mobley, the ankle, I saw him limping around during the game. We all saw that. And he continued to play. Hunter continued to play. So based on that, and Mobley said he didn't think it was much immediately after the game. Obviously, that narrative changed a little bit at practice on Monday. I suspect that they're going to do what the Cavs always do, bring them out, have them warm up, and see how it, see if they'll be able to contribute. As Kenny Atkinson said about Darius Garland, who went out and warmed up Sunday before the game, did his full warm up, and Kenny Atkinson said, having him at 50 or 60% probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, and that's where he was. He's characterized all of this stuff as day-to-day, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't find out until right before tip-off exactly what is going to happen with all three. If I had to guess, I would say Mobley and Hunter will probably go. Garland, again, remains a mystery.
Before I let you go, what are some of the adjustments you expect to see? Will they be? How do the Cavs even it at 1? I guess right now that's all you're worried about.
Yeah, I thought that they made some great adjustments. Really, that game on Sunday came down to the first quarter. The Pacers kind of had the Cavs in a defensive blender, were running all over the place. They were out of sorts, but then they got that corrected. And that's where they made their run in the second half and really outplayed Indiana in the second half for the most part. It was just those final couple of minutes, which again, that came down to a 36-25 deficit at the end of the first quarter. The rest of the game, the Cavs either played them even or outplayed them. So I think if they continue what they did in the second through fourth quarters, they're going to be fine. And by that, I mean, they really let Indiana take all the 2-pointers they wanted and just would guard them, pick them up at midcourt, and just not let them get any good looks. They got probably in the second half 3 or 4 good looks from beyond the arc, which in an NBA game these days, that shows that the defense really picked up the pace. So that's really what it's going to boil down to is, can you keep Indiana from shooting 53% on threes like they did? I don't even think the Cavs need to shoot better. They just need to lower that 3-point percentage for Indiana. And, easier said than done, but if they can do that, I think they'll be fine, not just in game 2, but moving forward in the series.
Sam Amico, hoopswire.com and Full Court Cleveland. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time, the insight. Thanks very much, Sam.
All right, thanks for having me. We will talk to you soon.
Sam Amico, make sure you check him out. Hoopswire.com, Full Court Cleveland. Always some of the best Cavs coverage as well as coverage of the entire NBA. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No shows the rest of the week. We are out at the Mid-American Conference Softball Tournament. We will see you back here Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE. Have a great weekend, everybody.